Welcome. Thanks for being here. We are going to do a little bit more of a restorative practice today. And it's not all restorative, but about relieving stress. And part of relieving stress, we can do some breathing exercises. We're going to be doing some movements and poses where we are grounding our bodies, meaning making an intentional connection to the earth, which can also have a calming effect on the body, and even some of the restorative poses that will help with some of the nervous system reactions that we can have in our bodies. So because we are doing a little bit more restorative work, we will be using a few more props. I have two bolsters, but this is going to be our starting position where you can have the legs up on a chair or a couch, so you don't have to have the yoga bolsters. This is me sort of mimicking a couch, just maybe a little bit lower, and it's fine if yours is higher. I'm going to be using the strap towards the end of the practice, and this one it's okay if it's a stretchy one, so if you have a TheraBand, it will work just as well as a yoga strap. I will be using the blanket mostly for padding my knees, but we will have it for a prop later in the practice for a restorative position as well. And then if you have the blocks, grab those. So we are starting in a position to release tension in the hip flexors as well as decompress the spine. And that's the legs up on the chair, legs up on a couch, maybe the props you might have these yoga props. You could position yourself with them underneath your calves so that the hips and knees are bent. And my hips and knees are probably bent somewhere between 60 and 70 degrees. It could be up to 90 degrees here. Past that might be helpful too, but usually more than that is changes what happens at the lower back, which is one of the benefits of this position is decompressing the spine. So go ahead and get yourself situated here. Uh, you might sometimes, once you get there, kind of lift the hips and lay them back down again, sometimes tucking the pelvis under a little bit to get the lower back a little flatter, as comfortable you can see what works in your body. And then I'll have you place one hand on the belly and the other hand on the chest and let your elbows rest on the ground so the hands don't need to be directly in the center of your body. For me, it is helpful to close my eyes so that I can bring more focus inward. But for you, it might be helpful to keep the eyes open. Sometimes just having a visual anchor or being aware of your surroundings or the space itself might be calming to you. So maybe you keep your eyes open for this part. We'll be here for a few minutes, so it's worth getting comfortable, making the effort to get comfortable here for the next few seconds. Bringing your attention to the breath, feeling that expansion within your body, as well as underneath your hand as you breathe in, this contraction, which is passive, as you breathe out. Breathing through the nose. It's towards the end of the day, into the evening. Might just make a little note, a little list of the things that you've done today. Going to work, tasks around the house, running errands, taking care of kids, prepping meals, making phone calls, sending emails. Knowing that all of that is in the past. Connecting with the breathing here, continuing that Focus on the inhale and the exhale. Noticing all the places in your body that are making contact with the earth or the props under your legs, the back of the head, back of the shoulders, shoulder blades, the back of the arms, the triceps, where the elbows rest on the floor. The back of the hips and the pelvis. Noticing where the calves are resting on the chair, the couch. Maybe the heels are making contact with that seat. Take a moment and consider what your body needs. And that may dictate how you move through the practice, when you take a rest, how you breathe, what you let go of, what you stay in tune with. Considering what your body needs. Does it need recovery and rest? Does your mind need to be engaged so that you can let go of what's happened before or what might happen later? Do you need to just stay present? Would it be helpful to stay focused on the breath? And also consider it might feel good to dedicate your practice to someone else. So bring this thought of what your body needs or this person to the front of your mind and breathe with intention. I'm going to let the hands go here, lengthening the breath here, breathing through the nose. You'll stay in this position, but bend the knees more. So you might bring your feet to the front edge of that seat, or maybe the heels are propped somewhere on there. And then cross one ankle over the other knee. And pausing here, this might feel good like this, or just gently rocking the legs side to side. This doesn't need to be a big movement, but if it feels like a nice stretch to make it bigger, you can. We sometimes do this with the foot flat in this practice, but here the foot is elevated, so there might be a little different sensation in the stretch of the hip or back or sideways. So I would say being conservative and then making the movements bigger would be smart. We'll bring it back into center and we're switching legs. And perhaps you rock here a little side to side. Movements as big as feels comfortable to you, gentle, not looking for intense stretch sensation here. We'll uncross the leg. If you scooched over to the chair or the couch, moving away, if you have those props, maybe you're just shoving them out of the way here. We're on our backs and we have one knee bent, pulled in towards you, holding on with the hands. Could be back of the thigh too if that knee pressure doesn't feel great. And pull that knee out a little wider than the hip. So knee is out just a little bit, not too far. And then the other leg is straight. We're making that leg longer. So on your inhale, push out through the heel, pressing the back of the knee into the floor. Exhale to release it. And do that again. We inhale, lengthen out. Straight leg gets longer. Exhale, let it go. You could keep it there or reach that free arm overhead. So it's arm and leg on the same side. And we inhale, lengthen out through both. So Heel reaching away, hand reaching in the opposite direction. Exhale, let it go. Do 2 or 3 more here. As we start to open up through hip flexors, side waist, maybe the lats getting a little bit of stretch here. Exhale, relaxing. We'll switch sides. Remember that knee is pulled in gently. You don't have to hug it in tight. And it's out a little bit wider than the hip. Straighten leg, we're going to make it longer. So we inhale, reach out through the leg. Exhale, relax. A couple more like this with just the leg. And if you'd like, if it feels good, reach the arm overhead. Stretch out through both limbs on that side of the body. And you might add it might be a little bit of a side bend here. One more. Exhale, relaxing. Let's pull both knees in. We'll bring them out a little wider than the hips, holding shins or maybe backs of thighs for this relaxed, happy baby, shifting a little side to side. And then eventually rolling over, pressing up, 2 hands and knees. We're going to be on our knees for the next several poses. You might choose to add a blanket underneath there for some extra padding. And we're starting here in this tabletop position, knees under hips, wrist under shoulders. It could be loose fist. You could be down on your forearms to take the pressure off the wrist. If you're on the hands, spread your fingers out wide. So you've got some yoga mat space between the fingers, and then press into the pads of the fingers, like where the fingerprints are, press in. So the palms lift slightly away from the floor. So you're kind of digging the fingers in here, really making that connection to the earth, almost like you could press your fingers into the soil, keeping that cat and cow of the spine. We round through the back, tuck the chin and tailbone under. And then inhale, lift the tailbone, chest forward. Breathing, exhale, rounding the back, pushing the floor away, belly button towards spine. Inhaling, hips up, chest forward. Move back and forth here a few times, taking your time to get from one pose to the next. Keeping that intention here through the hands, the pads of the fingers pressed into the floor, a little dome underneath the palm. As if you could dig your fingers into the earth and find a little bit more stability just by the strength of the hands that translates up into the shoulders, into the back, into the core. We'll bring this, actually keep going with this. And if you'd like to add some other movements here, feel free. It could be a circling of the hips. It could be a side bend or stretch the leg. It could be a thread the needle type of movement. This is your opportunity again to consider what would feel good in the body, or maybe what brings some ease to your mind. Eventually making your way back into that tabletop position. And we're stretching one leg back and bring it to the opposite side. So I brought that leg up off the mat and looking towards the foot. So I'm peeking around the shoulder. If that doesn't feel good to the neck, just keep the gaze at the hand. We're adding a little toe rocking movement. So I'm shifting forward, bending through the toe joints, and then pressing the heel back to stretch through the calf. Shifting forward and back a few times just through that foot. So you keep that side bend here, opening through the rib, side waist, outer hip. And we'll bring that knee down and switch sides. Peeking around the shoulder or looking towards the hand, that little toe rocking movement here. And we'll bring that knee back down. Finding a child's or puppy pose. Child's is hips over heels, forehead resting down. Puppy is hips over knees, forehead resting down. Puppy, if you remember, or if you've been to my class before, you will have heard this, but puppy is a pose that's I use as an alternative to child's pose to keep compression out of the vertebrae of the spine and the discs and the hips and the knees. So especially if you have a herniated disc or low bone density, this is a safer pose than child's. And note that I have my hands stacked here under my forehead. They could be stacked forward of the top of the head as well, just to release some tension in the muscles that run between neck and shoulders. It's an area that's very commonly when people are feeling stress. They tend to hold tension. This pose, if you kind of bring a little bit more weight towards the hips instead of the upper body, starts to release some of that tension between neck and shoulders. Take a couple more breaths. Remember, you can rest at any time during the practice. You can modify, you can adapt these poses to make it work better for your body. You can substitute, you can skip. You could stay here longer because my next step is to come into down dog. Can be a challenging pose, and you might choose to stay in that resting position a little bit longer or do a toe rock as we sometimes do. But I'm going to set myself up here, hands a little forward of shoulders, those fingers are spread, and I'm clawing the pads of the fingers into the mat, making that real connection through the earth, lifting the hips up and back. Now I'm pretty tight in my down dog right now, so I'm keeping a pretty generous bend in my knees to reach those sitting bones up and back, shaking the head out. Maybe you add some movements, pedaling the feet. Maybe you shift forward into plank and back into that down dog, or lift a leg here. Maybe you lower your knees and you've had enough of down dog at this point. Keep those finger pads pressed into the mat, into the floor. Settle in your down dog. We'll look forward and step this left foot to the outside of the left hand. So if it doesn't get there on the first go round, right knee lowers, left hand helping this foot forward. But both hands and shoulders on the inside of that front foot. I'm going to use my blocks here under the hands to create a little bit more space in my hips and spine. Allow the hips to sink down and the head to reach up. So I find a real lengthening through the spine, in my waist, in my neck. And that front foot, for whatever reason, my body always wants to kind of lift my front toes up, but I'm going to spread out all 5 toes and place them down spread out. And I'm pressing the toes into the ground, the similar way I had my fingertips press into the ground, top of the head reaching up again. Slow little head turn, small, gentle head turn side to side here. We'll bring that head back in through center. And we're bringing the hands to the floor, stepping it back into a plank. Lower both knees. Hold that plank for a second. Pull your front hip bones towards each other. They don't actually move, but engaging those muscles. Lengthen out through the top of the head. And then slowly lower all the way down to the ground. Again, clawing the pads of the fingers into the floor. Shoulder blades towards the spine and the back waist to lift the head, chest, low cobra. Neck long. Lower down. Let's do a couple more. You could keep it at that low cobra or lift up a little higher. It's a bigger back bend. No need to force here. One more cobra. And then we're going to pull the low belly in. That's what's going to power our hips to come back to hands and knees. You could stay in hands, knees, or tuck your toes. Downward facing dog. Find that long spine. Again, I'm having some tightness here, so I'm modifying my down dog by bending the knees quite a bit. Looking forward, we're stepping the right foot to the outside of that right hand, helping you get there, lowering the back knee. Perhaps you find those blocks again, or you could be up on fingertips. If you don't have blocks, you could always bring the forearm to that right thigh uh, because I'd like you to find more length as opposed to rounding over, hips down, head up. That right foot, the front foot, lift all 5 toes, place them down, spread out, kind of clawing the toes into the floor, not hammer toe position, but if your toes have fingerprints, like they had toe prints, that's the part that's pressing into the ground. Keeping that long spine, gentle head turns. Bring that head back to center. Toe heel this front foot so that your hands on or foot is on either hands or on either side of that front foot. We're lifting the back knee, step the back foot to the front foot, finding a variation of forward fold that works in your body. You could be using the blocks under the hands. You might have a bend in the knees and ragdoll the upper body over, holding shoulders. Might be in this protective position for the spine, the sit back forward fold, that's feet wide, butt back, forearms on the thighs. Again, protective if you have low bone density or herniated disc, or this also if you're tight hamstrings. You could add a little subtle sway. You could add a shake out of the head, a nod of the head. If you're in that ragdoll, you could let the elbows go and walk the hands a little side to side. Wherever you are with this, you could keep that slow little movement. Take an inhale through your nose. Open the mouth. Let out a sigh. You could do that again, or a lion's breath. So you inhale through the nose. Open your mouth, stick out your tongue, and hiss out the exhale. Do one more breath, either of those. Closing the mouth to breathe through the nose again. Bend the knees, look forward, strong legs. We rise up to stand. Once you're up, roll those shoulders back and down here a few times. So sometimes that opening the mouth, letting out the exhale, a sigh. Often we do it naturally, or most of the time we do it sort of naturally when we're tired, when we finished something stressful, when we are in a stressful position, and our body does it naturally to try to let go of some of that, right? So you can consciously do that kind of sigh to try to let go of stress, tension in the body. It's often goes along with release of tension in some of the muscles. So we're starting with our feet about hip distance apart, and we're going to go back to those toes again. So I'd like you to lift all 5 toes, spread them out. See if you can place them down, spread out one at a time. Maybe start with the little toe and make your way to the big toe. Let's do that just a few more times. So lift all 10 toes, spread them out, placing them down, spread out. Now try to do this without watching your feet. Make sure you're breathing. And the next time you get all 5 toes down, keep them down, pressing the pads of those toes into the ground as if you could kind of claw, or you're at the beach and you're digging your toes into the ground here, really feeling the contact of the earth underneath the toes, underneath the balls of the feet, through the heels. And then stand taller. Root the tailbone towards the earth and the top of the head towards the sky. Breathe. So just in very, very intentional grounding, connection through the earth. And then the opposite, where we lift out of it, like we're overcoming the effects of gravity, as if something were pulling the top of our head towards the sky. Keeping this here, we're going to bring our hands behind the head, interlacing the fingers. And on the inhale, reach up through one elbow. And you might lift up through the opposite heel. So you stretch through that side body. And then bring it back into center. Other side, we inhale, reach up through the elbow. You might lift up through the opposite heel, kind of hiking that side up. Bring it back to center. Do that a few more times. Inhale, lengthening up through one side. Exhale, center. Keep going. If you're pressing your head forward with your hands, gently press back a little bit. Inhale to lengthen, exhale, both feet flat. One more time, each direction. Bringing it back in through center here, and then we're going to release the hands and just swing them out. And then walk your feet out a little wider, maybe shoulder distance, maybe yoga mat distance apart here. We're working with the breath a little bit more, and instead of that audible sigh, we're going to slow down the exhale, breathing through the nose. If the shoulders work with this, you do the arm movements. If not, keep them low. Inhale, reach your arms out and up. And then at the top, where palms face the earth, and we exhale, press the palms down towards the earth. Again, inhale, palms face down, exhale through the nose, slow it down. Inhale, palms face down, slow it down. Couple more. Borrowing a little bit from Tai Chi here, the next couple poses. Gathering the energy from without, and exhale, bringing it in, slow and controlled. One more. Let it go. Shake out the arms, roll the shoulders here. This might be a comfortable foot position. You could stay with this or turn towards your side so that you can bring your feet out a little wider on the mat. Toes are turned out. We're coming into a goddess or a wide-legged squat position. So bending through the knees and the hips. You could be a little shallow bend or you could go deeper, whatever feels good to your knees, your body. Lift and spread all 5 toes, place them down, spread out. Make that connection to the earth. So really clawing those toes into the ground. Reach both arms forward and then straighten both legs. Pull the elbows back, a little shoulder blade squeeze. And then we sit back, arms forward. Exhale, straighten the legs, elbows back, shoulder blade squeeze. Inhale, sit back, arms forward. We'll do a few more here. You're in charge of how deep you're going into that squat. This doesn't have to be a workout squat. This just could be a little bit of movement, feeling that connection through the earth, in your feet, feeling that strong back, the open front, the open heart, right? You can afford to have that open heart because you are strong and stable through the lower body. The back is supporting the front body here. Pausing in that position, release the arms, shake out your wrist. And then from here, toe heel your feet back in, shake out your legs, walking up here to the front of the mat if you've left that spot. We're going to work a little bit on balance. And sometimes balance can feel scary or certainly unstable, and that's part of the design of some of these poses. But we're going to work on that grounding, that making the connection into the earth here. So I want you to bring one foot forward, spread those toes out, place them down, spread out. And then remember, we're kind of clawing the pads of the toes into the floor, shifting your weight onto it. And I should have said, you could always come off your mat. A more solid surface works better. You could have a hand over at the wall or a steady piece of furniture as we come into tree pose. So we're going to start all in this kickstand version with the other foot, the toes on the floor, heel just above the ankle. Hands on the hips to start. Focus your gaze on a non-moving spot. The visual feedback is confirmation of where your body is in space, and it's comforting to know that you're staying upright. Tailbone down, top of the head up, right? We're using our core, our hip stabilizers, ones that lengthen the spine here to stack joints over this one foot. You could stay with this or slide that foot up, calf, inner knee, or pull it up to the inner thigh. Press the foot and the leg towards each other. So the force is coming towards midline. That's going to help with balance. You could stay here or reach your arms out, growing your branches. So sometimes when the world around us is kind of crazy, right? Wind blowing, our limbs, even bending us in the trunk, if we can remain strong through the roots, our toes, our heel, the ball of the foot, we can stay upright. Or we grow a second set of roots. Come on down, shake out the arm, shake out the leg. We're going to do this on the other side. So bring that foot forward, spread the toes out. You're clawing the toes into the floor. You're intentionally pressing in. You're going to feel your arch lift up away from the floor. So bonus, we're strengthening the arch of the foot. So these are kind of exercises I give to my PT clients who have plantar fasciitis, tendonitis. So we're going to bring other foot down, heel just above the ankle. Focus, gaze, lengthen spine. Stay here, breathe. You could stay with that. You could bring the foot up a little higher. No, you could always put that foot back down or use the hand to pull it up higher. Press the foot and leg in towards each other. This helps to level the hips and bring all the force towards midline. You could stay with that. You could grow your branches. Maybe there's a strong wind, there's a disruption in the environment. If you stay gaze focused, if you stay with your roots planted firmly into the soil, it's going to help you have an easier time to withstand those outside forces. Are you breathing? Don't forget that part. We'll bring it back into center, lower that foot, shake it out, roll the shoulders. So I'm going to bring us down into a yogic squat position, but I'm going to do a halfway down version for those of you who either your ankles don't like that position, or your knees or your back, or for whatever reason, not going all the way down works better for you. So, and you might have the yoga blocks nearby. If you want a more supported version, I'll give you some options. So start with your feet yoga mat distance apart, shoulder distance apart, turn the toes out a little bit. First, we're sitting back, forearms to the thighs. So this is kind of halfway down. This is a little bit more work on your quads, but less compression on the knees, less need for that ankle range of motion. So this might be where you stay, or you could come down, hips between the ankles here. And then elbows could come to the inner knees, palms pressing together, and reach the top of the head up. If your heels come up off the floor here, you might slide a blanket roll underneath your heels. The other option is to put those two yoga blocks underneath your seat. You might have to reposition the feet here, trying to keep that spine long instead of rounding. The blocks make this really lovely if you have enough range of motion. If you're without the blocks and feeling okay, try a subtle little weight shift towards the balls of the feet and then towards the heels. Being careful, sometimes going back to the heels is going to make you sit on your butt. Breathe. All right, either bring the hands to the floor, lift the hips, hands to the thighs, rising up to stand. And you might pause part way. Take a few big breaths in case you kind of block some of that blood flow back up to your brain in that deep squat. So you don't have a syncopal, you don't faint or feel like you're going to pass out and eventually come on up. Coming back to that breath, we did a little bit of this before, but here kind of a more audible exhale. So if there's somebody else in the house, they might be able to hear you as you exhale. If you want, you can watch me on the first one and join in. It's simple. You're inhaling through the nose. On the exhale, big sigh out, open the mouth, swing your arms, let them go. And again, big exhale. Open the mouth. Couple more. Slow exhale. I meant to say slow inhale. Slow inhale. Relatively slow exhale. Good. All right, come on up. We're going to make our way to sitting. You could be sitting on the floor. You could be sitting on the edge of a chair. You could be sitting cross-legged, maybe a folded blanket underneath you. I'm going to choose to sit back here on the 2 yoga blocks. So my shins are on the ground, the tops of my feet are on the ground. This works well for me, but I know for some people this gives them toe cramps or the knees don't like that bending. So however it works for you to be able to sit tall, right? So if you're rounded like this, it's hard to sit on the floor, even with props. I'd prefer you to sit on that chair or the couch that you had your legs up on before, kind of perched on the front edge, and that's going to allow you to lengthen through the spine. Because we're going to start to do a little bit of stretching, opening here through the muscles in the front of the neck. So often, as I was saying before, our neck, shoulder muscles will tense up with stress, with external tension. Our body takes on some of that tension. With stress, with fear, with anxiety, especially stuff that's outside of our control, our body's tendency is to protect itself and pull inward. So the shoulders come up and forward, the head will come forward, and maybe even chin tucked down. So you end up in this forward head position, which is protecting kind of your heart, your vulnerable parts of your body, your throat, the belly, right? But if you stay like that for a long period of time, things start to tense up, stuff contracts, you're actually compressing organs in here, even some of the nerves. So we're going to start to lengthen out, gently lengthen out these muscles here that run from collarbones, rib cage, up to the neck. So you're taking one hand, place it on the front, on the chest, just below the collarbone. So it's hand on the opposite side of the chest, and my collarbone is above the hand here. This hand is anchoring skin, fascia, muscles that are on the chest. So you push that hand in towards your chest and pull down towards the floor. Pretty gentle pull, but I already start to feel this stretch over my collarbone. And then I'm lifting my chin up and turning the head away. And it's not a big movement for me. It's not a big tip back of my head or turn of the head for me to start to feel this stretch here. So be gentle with yourself. Remind the shoulders to relax. Check in if you're breathing. You could stay right here. You may have found a great sweet spot for this gentle stretch, or you could move a little bit, maybe turning the head some. Maybe tilting the head more, chin up, chin down a little bit. It's not just one muscle that we're stretching here, it's several layers, and it's often the fascia connective tissue here that I find if people have been in that forward head, forward shoulder position for a long time, starts to kind of shrink wrap up. And these gentle low-grade stretches, sometimes with a little bit of movement, helps to loosen that up better than just a static 30-second stretch. Keep breathing. We'll bring the head back into center, release the hand here. Take a couple of backward shoulder rolls, see if it feels different on the sides, the one side you did versus the one side you haven't done yet. I can really feel a lot less congestion on the side that I've done. So I'm ready to do the other side. Hand on the chest just below the collarbone. Push that hand inward, pull downward. Tip the chin up a little bit, turn the head away. Remember, you could add those little movements, turning, tip the chin up, down, side bend a little bit more. The other one I forgot about, but now I feel it here on this side. The other option you can do is bring that lower lip over the upper lip, which looks and sounds like a weird thing to do, but you might feel a little bit more stretch, openness here, right below that ear. Breathe. Remind the shoulders to stay relaxed. So even if we're not stressed or worried, sort of our modern life of being at the computer, looking on our phones, tend to put us in that forward head, forward shoulder position, which from the outside sort of signifies stress, worry, I'm having to protect myself. And even that posture can make your nervous system think you're worried or you're anxious just by the posture. All right, bring the head back to center, release the hand, take a couple of backward shoulder rolls. So we can also change how our nervous system is expressing itself via way of the body. And that's a lot of what yoga does for me. And I found a few ways for my body to get some of that to release and relax. And we've done some of them already. We'll do a few more. We're making our way back into that child's or puppy pose again. So child's pose, hips over heels, puppy hips over knees. You could do that, stack the hands forward of the top of the head or underneath the head. If you're in child's pose, you have one more option where you could bring your hands down by your feet. Take a few breaths, lengthen out the breath again. If it feels good to do that audible exhale here, you could add it in. Coming back to your intention for the practice, what was the thing that you wanted to focus on during the practice, this thing that you considered what your body needed? Was it the connection to the earth, that grounded sensation? Was it staying with the breath? Was it a dedication to someone else? Take a few more breaths. Noting all areas of your body that make contact with the floor, the tops of the feet, the shins, the knees, the forehead, where the arms meet the earth. When you're ready, make your way onto your belly. So we did a little low cobra. We're going to try some twisting cobra here. So for this one, we'll bring the hands out to the sides. Elbows are bent, pointing up towards the ceiling. I'm up on tented fingers here. So even though I'm not pressing the pads of my fingers, I'm kind of up on the tips. Feel that dome that you created under your palms in this position so that you might even be able to find a little bit more strength, even though you're up on these fingertips. Tailbone lengthens towards the feet. Inhale, lift the head and the chest. Very little pushing with the hands. Exhale, lower one shoulder, turn your head away. Inhale, lift up and through center, neck long. Exhale, lower the other shoulder, turn away. Let's do that one more time to each side. Make sure you lengthen, pause on the inhale and center in that lifted up upper back bend. Bring it back to center one more time. And then we lower down. You can bring your hands forward to rest your forehead on top of. Then bend the knees, rock the legs side to side. So I'm making my way into the triple relaxation pose. So I'm using the blanket for this. I'm folding it up, rolling up into the fattest little roll I can make it. And I'm sliding this underneath the front of my shoulder. And I'm snuggling it in close to the ribs. Its job is to push my shoulder blade towards the spine. Now we're coming, the opposite leg of that shoulder is coming out into a frog leg position. So bringing that knee out to the side, the inner knee resting on the ground, the off arm and head, or wherever it's comfortable to rest your arm and head, right? So hand under the forehead for neutral spine in the neck, or resting the cheek down here. Make any adjustments you need to. That arm could be out to the side or down by the side. Maybe you experiment and see what's most relaxing, which is the goal of this pose. So that breathing down again. In this position, we are releasing tension in 3 different areas of the body, hence the triple part. Muscles between the shoulder blade and spine, the back of the hip, and side low back on that side of the frog leg. If you slow your breathing down, we start to signal to the nervous system that we are safe. Just briefly picture yourself when you're nervous, scared, worried, how quickly your breath might be coming, might be a little bit choppy. And then think about yourself when you feel safe, relaxed, comfortable, comforted, and how your breath comes with ease. It's slow. The neck and the shoulders stay relaxed. Again, we can use the body. We're using the breath, right, to get us out of fight or flight and into the rest, digest, heal part of the nervous system. Straightening the leg, we're switching sides. Take a moment here, get comfortable, right? So the purpose of this is to release tension. If you're uncomfortable, you're gonna hold some tension. Might not be the exact mirror image of the other side, so make any adjustments you need to. Sometimes doing both the leg and the arm doesn't work, so maybe you take one out. Does that help you relax a little bit more? Back into that lengthened breath. When things outside of our control are causing stress, worry, anxiety, it can be hard to deal with that. It's scary when things happen and you have no control over them. You can, to some extent, control your response, slowing the breath down, reconnecting to the earth, grounding, finding your breath, smoothing it out, releasing tension in your muscles. Couple more breaths here. When you're ready, straightening that leg. Roll onto your back and bring a block or a folded blanket. I'm going to use my bolster for this. And have your strap nearby. We're coming into a supported bridge. So you're lifting the hips and sliding this prop underneath them. So that area above the buttocks, below the low back. Yoga block, folded blanket, foam roller. Again, I'm using the yoga bolster because I have one and it's very comfortable. Gives me a little bit more elevation. It's bigger, so I don't really have to be really specific with the positioning. So that's one of the benefits of this. Whatever prop you're using, get comfortable. Sometimes you got to adjust. And take a moment here and see if you can convince the muscles of the low back and your buttocks to release their tension. These muscles have to work to hold us up all day, to move us from point A to point B, to get us out of a chair, go upstairs, just hold us upright. So for them to recognize that the body is supported and they can let go sometimes takes a moment, right? And it can be helpful to lengthen out, slow down the breath to get there. You could stay right here. This feels really good to my low back. There's a decompressive sort of tractioning type of action happening just by this pose. Or you could bring the knees in and feet up towards the ceiling, this leg elevation position. And note that I don't have my knees all the way straight. I'm slightly bent here so that I'm not having to work hard through my hip flexors and my quads. And this could feel really good, staying here or pointing and flexing the feet, but I'm actually going to use my strap and putting it under the soles of my feet and then bringing the legs back up. And then I'm not pulling hard here, but I'm gripping and letting the weight of my arms give me a little pull down. And instead of like going for a deep stretch, I'm more thinking about this pull straight down. So the pressure from my feet is pressing the ball into the back of my socket of my hip joints. And sometimes with tight hip flexors, they pull the ball forward. So they're not settling into the back of the hip joints. And so this position can allow the ball to settle back into the back of the socket. And it can feel grounding. It can feel comforting. It can feel like, that's where my body wants to be. Maybe you hate it and you take the strap off. Keep breathing. Make sure you haven't tensed through the shoulders, the neck, the jaw. Bend the knees. You could take that strap off of them. Bring the feet down to the floor. Lift your hips. Take the prop out from underneath. Lowering down. Pull the knees in towards you. Gentle hug in. And then drop the legs to one side, arms out, spinal twist, stay with that, or maybe the legs kind of slide away, or you use a prop under the legs or in between the knees. You have that folded blanket right there. Check in with the body. Where are you still holding on to tension? I just noticed my left shoulder shrugging up towards my ears, so I let that go. Pull the knees in through center, hug in, rocking a little bit, eventually legs to the other side, using the props or no. Knees don't have to stay in the tight ball, arms out. Check in with the body. Is there something you can let go of here? Is there tension that your body is unconsciously holding that you can release with a conscious thought? Pulling your knees in, coming onto your back. Decide if there's something you'd like to do before Shavasana. Could be a happy baby, could be an inversion, different hip stretch. I'm going to set myself up in that legs up on the couch, legs up on the chair position here. And one of the reasons, besides the sort of mechanical release of tension in the hip flexors, the decompression of the low back, is that our hip flexors and tension held in the hip flexors goes along with the fight or flight part of your nervous system. So if you think about running towards or running away, you initiate that movement with your hip flexors. The hip flexors pick the foot up so you can run. So if you're in low grade fight or flight, or more than that, the hip flexors are turned on because they are ready to run at any moment. This position mechanically does not allow your hip flexors to engage. So if we make the hip flexors turn off, release their tension, it communicates to the nervous system that we are safe, right? So just being in this position is calming to the nervous system. It can also feel good to have a little weight over the low belly, the hips, and that weight could be just that blanket folded up here, that little bit of extra weight, allowing you to feel the contact of the back of the hips, the pelvis, that contact to the earth, to the floor. Do a little breathing exercise here. We're extending the exhale. So breathing through the nose, a regular inhale. When your exhale, lengthen it out. Make your exhale a little longer than your inhale. Just in time. It's the same amount of volume going in and out. Breathing in normal. Slowly exhale down. We'll do a few more breaths like this. Normal inhale through the nose. Slow down, lengthened out, exhale through the nose. Inhales are energizing, exhales are calming. So if we make our exhale a little longer, not uncomfortably so, it can be calming to the nervous system, helping our physiological response to stress, to worry, to outside tensions. Be less of the fight or flight and a calmer response. After your next exhale, we'll take a regular inhale in, open the mouth, let out a sigh, and another like that. Let the breath go. We finally get to let it go. We don't have to concentrate. Let the body breathe for itself and allow yourself to rest for the next few minutes. You might choose to stay here for a little longer, enjoying the peace, the calm, the restful sensations in your body. If you're ready to move on, start to take some deeper breaths, filling the belly, the chest, Incorporate some gentle movements at the fingers, the toes, the ankles, the wrist. Maybe you take a bigger stretch, arms overhead. Inhale, lengthen out. Exhale to let it go. You'll bend the knees, roll to your side. Pause for a moment here. Take a few more deep breaths. Perhaps appreciating all the things that your body can do for you, all the things it does automatically, all the areas of control and strength that you have. Appreciating your breath, your health, your yoga practice. Being gentle, press up. Thank you all for being here, sharing your practice, your energy. The light in me honors the light in each of you. Namaste.